Hello, best friends. How are you going? Welcome back to our safest, coziest little space of the internet. I hope you're doing well. And thank you so much for joining me for our very first hangout of 2022. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad that you're back. And I have missed you all so much. And you're looking amazing. Just FYI. If you are new here and you've never seen my face before, then hi, my name is Liz and I am so happy that you randomly stumbled across this video. Now is the part where I will warn you though that we are not alone today. We are joined by everyone's favorite guest star, Lily, because she's a very sensitive soul and she doesn't like it when I lock her out of the room to record. So if you hear weird noises in the background, it's not a ghost, it's Lily. And she'll probably also pop her head up here and there to give us emotional support breaks because she thinks that's her job. So firstly, I have to apologize for unexpectedly going MIA for like a month and a half, even though it feels like it's been a million years. It's been school holidays here in Australia. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that we took a little impromptu post-Christmas, New Year's trip away in the caravan for like a week. But I'm sure any fellow mums out there will be able to understand that with our 4-year-old running around like an absolute maniac and little to no internet, it was one of those holidays where you came back feeling like you needed a holiday from your holiday. So it took me a little while to recover, I must admit. But over this impromptu break, I was able to kind of disconnect and step back and have a think about what I would like to do with my channel this year. So you might see changes here and there, not bad changes or scary changes for any of you that don't like changes, but exciting changes. Exciting changes. Hey, they might be able to hang out with you even more. Yeah. Lily is very excited by the prospect, obviously. Did you just want to tell everyone you missed them? Are you too excited to see everyone again? It's been so long. Now I have Lily hair all over my mic, so that's fun. But on with today's video. In this two-parter, yes, I know I'm always like, no more multi-parters. And here I am back at it with yet another multi-parter. Anyway, in this multi-parter, we are going to be talking about a different kind of true crime case, the Anna Delvey case, which is one that I've been researching and wanting to talk about for ages. And I'm surprised it hasn't received more coverage over here on YouTube, but it's quite literally perfect timing to do it now because the Netflix series Inventing Anna, which is a dramatization of everything that went down, is coming out finally in February. So I thought I would kind of get in there quickly with my 2 cents. And then we can all sit back and watch the series together in a couple of weeks. If you are sitting there having never heard of Anna or her story, then you are in for a treat. It's pretty mind-blowing what this woman managed to get up to and the people she was involved with. She's been called everything from a fake heiress to the Soho Grifter to even a modern-day Gatsby. But I don't want to give away too much up front, so grab yourself some snacks, maybe a nice beverage, and we are going to jump into the case. To begin our look into this case, we are going to go back in time just a little bit to the night of the 13th of January 2016 in New York City. And we're going to meet Anna Delvey, who at this point in time was already quite well known amongst the city's circles of young elite socialites for being at all the best parties and all of the latest hotspots. But that night she was throwing her own little birthday party for her 25th birthday at one of her favorite restaurants, the very new and very fashionable Sadelle's in Soho. If you had been lucky enough to score an invite to this party, you would have been hard-pressed not to be impressed by the people that you were brushing shoulders with that night. We're talking the who's who of New York's top current young influencers, entrepreneurs, artists, app developers, you know, the cool kids, the big fish. And these people were essentially celebrities in their own right. So by default, It would have been hard to not be impressed by Anna Delvey herself, who had managed to gather all of these people in one room. Basically, in 2016, Anna Delvey was the shit. She was rich, connected, always draped head to toe in designer brands, always living out of luxury hotels, just living the high life. And Anna had come to New York from Cologne in Germany a few years prior, where she had a background in art and fashion, and she came from some serious money. In fact, this birthday was a huge one for her because it marked the year where she would gain access to her inheritance, which was rumored to be around a casual $60 million. This was an amount that she said she planned on tripling in the next decade, but she was also determined to set herself apart from all of the other trust fund babies in New York. And so in her little birthday speech that night that she gave, she told her guests to watch this space, which was an obvious reference to the Anna Delvey Foundation, or ADF, Anna's own company, of which she had crowned herself the founding creator and CEO. And this company was set to take the art world by storm, changing the way that people created and consumed works of art. The flagship location was set to open up that year in New York, and there were plans in the pipeline for other locations to pop up around the globe in the next few years in places like London, Dubai, and Hong Kong. Anna's vision for the ADF was so big and radical that it seemed almost impossible. And yet there she was working with some of New York's most prominent and respected businessmen to make ADF a reality. So between her impressive connections and her $60 million inheritance hitting her bank account any day now, she quite literally had the world at her feet and all of her dominoes lined up ready to go. There was only one minor, eensy little hiccup. Anna wasn't Anna. At least she wasn't Anna Delvey, because Anna Delvey didn't exist. Anna wasn't the wealthy heiress she claimed to be. There was no $60 million inheritance coming her way. It was all an elaborate smoke and mirrors game, years in the making, that, unbeknownst to Anna, was about to come crashing down to the ground around her. Anna Delvey's real name was Anna Sorokin, and she was born on the 23rd of January 1991 in a working-class satellite town just southeast of Moscow in Russia. And this town, I don't have a chance of pronouncing its name correctly. Google says it's pronounced like this, but I feel like she's lying to me. It's not imperative to the story though, so we can move on. So stories passed around New York about Anna's background varied, and no one could exactly agree where her father had amassed his great wealth. Some people said that he was an oil tycoon. Others said that he was a diplomat. Some people even said that the family's wealth came from a large collection of art and antiques from medieval times. The truth was far from reality, although not as far as you might think. Anna had not come from poverty. If anything, her family was the very definition of middle class. Her mother had owned a small convenience store before she became a full-time mother to both Anna and her younger brother. And her father originally was a truck driver, but over the years he went on to become an executive at a transport company and eventually started his own energy-efficient heating and cooling company. So basically, Anna's family weren't rich, they weren't poor, they were just a very average family of moderate income, and a very far cry from the wealthy dynasty that Anna made them out to be. In 2007, when Anna was 16, her family relocated from Russia to Eschweiler in Germany, which is located near Cologne. And Anna's classmates in Germany described her as pretty quiet, probably because she's said to have had a hard time learning the German language, but thanks to her sophisticated style and designer brand clothing, she did gain the nickname Barbie, which I'm sure was meant by her classmates in a derogatory way. But the more you learn about Anna, the more you know she was probably like Barbie. Damn straight. When she graduated from high school in 2011, Anna kind of just floated around here and there for a while, deciding what she wanted to do with her life. For a short time, she relocated to London and attended Central St. Martin's, which is a prestigious public art school, but she quit not long after starting and moved back to Germany, where she started working as an intern at a public relations company. She then got her first big break when she managed to wrangle a highly highly sought after internship at the French fashion magazine Purple, and she promptly relocated to Paris, and once there, quickly and strategically talked her way into getting close with the founder of the magazine, Olivier Zahm. So this meant that as well as the usual boring intern tasks like coffee runs and steam ironing garments, Anna also got to attend these big parties along with big names in the fashion and entertainment industry. And although she was often described as awkward and even a little bit weird, she turned out to be an extremely talented networker. And it was during this time that she was hanging out with these super influential people and getting her first real taste of the high life that Anna decided that she was tired of her ordinary existence and that this is what she wanted from life. This is when Anna dropped the Sorokin and started calling herself Anna Delvey. She said later in court that Delvey was her mother's maiden name, but she's also said to other people that she just made it up. And both of her parents have turned around and said that they don't recognize the name at all. So it really does seem like Anna just thought up the name Delvey, felt it made her sound more polished and refined, and just ran with it. With time, Anna found that people were nicer to her once they found out that she was associated with Purple, and so she worked it. She also found that it was all about the people she knew, even if she didn't technically know them. Like Anna would be at these parties filled with top designers and influencers and socialites, and she'd be talking to one person and then spot someone else across the room and name drop them, rattling off all of these details about them as though they went way back, only for the first person to later realize that Anna had never met that person. She just stalked their social media and used that knowledge to make herself seem more connected. It seems like after a couple of years of this though, in 2013, Anna decided that she was bored of just trying to get in with that cool crowd she was always hovering around. She wanted to be one of them. She wanted them name dropping her. To give you an idea of her mindset, later in an interview, she would say that she never saw herself as a ladder climber. Instead, she said that the people at the top of the ladder didn't really strike her as that smart or talented. So she was like, why waste my time? Let's just jump straight to the top. That year, Anna attended Paris Fashion Week, where she called in a favor from someone who knew someone who got her onto the list of the top 20 influencers in attendance. And then she traveled to New York to attend New York Fashion Week. And Anna just found that in New York, with her foreign European vibe, people were just more inclined to be friendly and interested in her. And this is when she started telling people that she was a wealthy German heiress, set to come into her massive $60 million inheritance on her 25th birthday. And now, all of a sudden, with this new persona she had created for herself, Anna found that friends and acquaintances of influence were even easier to come by. So she went and packed up her life in Paris and requested a transfer to the Purple office in New York, a city where there were way too many trust fund babies and rich kids running around to ever keep track of who got their money where. So no one ever really questioned Anna at all. They just took her at her word. And all Anna had to concern herself with now was how she was going to fund the lifestyle of the insanely wealthy heiress, Anna Delvey. This period of Anna's life is one of a couple where it's a little bit foggy where she got her money. For instance, during her time at Purple in Paris, because she was just an intern and her wage wasn't that astronomical, her parents were sending her an allowance to help her make ends meet. But this allowance really only covered Anna's needs, like her rent and day-to-day living expenses, not the fancy dinners and designer brands that she had gotten a taste for. And yet at the office, she was always wearing designer brands like Miu Miu and Celine and Gucci, although she was also always wearing black, so it might have been difficult for her co-workers to notice if she had a full wardrobe of these designer brands or if she was just cycling different combinations of the same half a dozen pieces. You know, just in case there was anyone out there that needed a reminder that black will always be the new black. Anna did do a couple of things in her early days in New York that might be considered odd for someone who was supposed to be a wealthy heiress, like asking a friend if she could sleep on their couch for a while. She asked someone if they could use their credit card to book her a taxi from the airport. And one acquaintance of Anna's said that she called them in tears one night asking if they could spot her for a hotel bill, which was in the thousands, by the way, because her credit card wasn't working. But somehow, rather than all of these things throwing up red flags for people, it just made her appear more wealthy. Like, people just assumed that Anna had so much money that she couldn't possibly keep track of it all. Soon enough, through her ever-growing list of connections, Anna met a guy named Billy McFarland, and she asked him if she could stay for a few days at the Soho headquarters of his brand new high-end luxury credit card company, Magnesis. And if the name Billy McFarland sounds familiar to you, then you've probably heard of the event he founded years later with Ja Rule, the infamous Fyre Festival. Fyre Festival was this big music festival event that was supposed to take place in April 2017 on an exotic tropical island, and Billy and Ja Rule paid big influencers like Kendall Jenner, Bella Hadid, and Hailey Baldwin to promote the event on social media, which led to people buying tickets for thousands of dollars each. And then it all turned into this huge disaster that left thousands of people stranded on this island without access to proper food, water, or medical care. Long story short, Billy ended up in jail for 8 to 10 years for wire fraud. There were lawsuits flying around everywhere. It was crazy. If you haven't heard of it, there's a couple of documentaries worth watching on the whole nightmare. But back to Anna and Billy in 2013, years before the whole Fyre Festival disaster, Billy agreed to Anna's request to stay for a few days at his headquarters in Soho, based solely on the fact that she knew his people. And almost poetically, this seems to have been the very first big scam that Anna pulled. Because those few days that Billy was like, yeah, no worries, go for it, turned into Anna squatting there at the Magnesis headquarters rent-free for 4 months, just straight up refusing to leave. Her room was crowded in all of these bags from high-end designer brands, and she'd go to all the big parties that Billy and his friends would throw there and meet all the cool people they knew, but then she just wouldn't leave. Billy and his people would hint at Anna for months that she had outstayed her welcome and it was time to hit the road. But apparently he was so uncomfortable about actually confronting her that eventually he and his company just moved out to a townhouse, which is pretty hilarious. Like a whole group of influential rich kids, and the only way they could get this 22-year-old girl to leave was for them to move out themselves. Oh, hi. It's hot, isn't it? Lily does not handle the heat well, do you? It's not nice. Okay, bye. By early January 2016, Anna had long left Purple magazine, and up until this point, the Anna Delvey Foundation had been more of a conversation point that she would drop when people asked what she was up to at fancy dinners and cool parties that she would attend with her boyfriend, a futurist app developer that she had been seeing for a couple of years. And Anna and this futurist kind of worked as a team. They were always out on the town at the hottest, newest venues and hosting all of these sceney, lavish dinner parties together, where the guy, Anna's futurist, was always pushing his plans for the app he was developing, and Anna was always talking about her plans for ADF. Later, after everything had gone down and people were trying to piece together Anna's story, no one could agree on who this mystery futurist was. All anyone knew for sure was that he had been profiled by The New Yorker at some point and that he had given a TED Talk. But according to the BBC podcast, Fake Heiress, Anna's futurist was definitely Hunter Lee Soik, who sounds like a really interesting guy, or at least someone that would have definitely been interesting to Anna. So personally, I had never heard of a futurist before I started researching this case. And if you're in the same boat and you want to be in the know like I am now, according to benparsons.org, a futurist is a person who, using a combination of research, statistics, imagination, and intuition, analyzes and makes educated projections and predictions about the future. Like, that's a whole real profession that some human beings have. And Anna's futurist, Hunter, despite being in the tech industry, owned no computer, only an iPhone and an iPad, and his entire wardrobe consisted of 5 black odor-resistant Nike t-shirts and 3 pairs of black Levi jeans, which he washed himself all by hand. And it's rumored that Anna met Hunter during the press tour for his app called Shadow, which is also interesting. As far as I can tell, Shadow was supposed to be this app that would track your sleep and then wake you up super gently so that you would remember your dreams from the night before. And with all of the data that Shadow collected, Hunter planned on answering questions like, do famous people dream differently to normal people? And other really important stuff like that. But Hunter's app never actually materialized. And eventually he and Anna parted ways when he moved to the Emirates. And after the breakup, Anna seemed to sulk and stay under the radar for a while before she pulled herself out of her funk and came back bigger and brighter than ever. And this brings us to where we started in January 2016, when Anna decided to throw herself an extravagant birthday party at Sadelle's, which at this point in time was such a popular and trendy spot that it was near impossible to get a reservation. And yet somehow Anna had managed to book out the entire venue for the evening. Anna hired a PR company to organize this party for her. And one of the people they invited was a well-known art collector named Michael Suhu Huang. And he had met Anna at a dinner party the previous year. And after they had been chatting for a while, he had mentioned that he was going to the Venice Biennale. And Anna was like, oh, wow, how cool. Can I come? Like, she just straight up invited herself along, and Michael agreed, putting the flights and hotel rooms on his credit card on the understanding that Anna would pay him back. And the Venice trip itself went pretty smoothly, apart from Michael noticing that Anna didn't really seem to have any party or gallery invites for herself. Instead, she just tagged along with him to the events he attended. But when they got back to New York, Anna never ended up coughing up the money that she owed Michael for the trip. And before Anna's birthday party that night, he had always just assumed, like a lot of people seem to, that Anna had forgotten that she just had so much cash flying around that it was hard to keep track of. And it wasn't like he needed the money, so he had just let it slide and didn't think much of it. But the day after the party, along with a bunch of other attendees, Michael got a phone call from the restaurant, Sadelle's, and they were in panic mode, scouring Anna's Instagram, and they reached out to him when they saw him in the pictures that Anna had posted from the party, because Anna had not only left at the end of the night without paying, but she had booked the event under false contact details and left them a fake credit card number. And it was only then that Michael was like, did I get scammed on the Venice trip? And so he contacted Anna, finally asking her for the money, and she did end up paying him, but it was from a Venmo account with an unfamiliar name. Anna managed to get away scot-free though after scamming Sadelle's, and she was refreshed and determined to finally make ADF a reality. And so she went and hired a bunch of people, all of whom were the top of their fields, like a graphic designer and an architect, and with their help, she started hashing out the details and the branding of her company. And these poor people, by the way, Anna would rack up massive bills with a lot of them, which she would then fail to pay. For instance, the brochure that she had the graphic designer make cost nearly $25,000 to create, and she just never paid for it. So we've spoken about Anna's company a couple of times now, but what exactly was the Anna Delvey Foundation? Anna told people that it was going to be a dynamic visual arts center dedicated to contemporary art. Basically, it was going to be this prestigious, members-only club where artists from all over, both established and emerging, could connect and be creative. And along with a private art studio, this space was also going to include a German bakery, a rooftop lounge, a juice bar, and a night lounge, as well as multiple other restaurants and hotel rooms for these artistic geniuses to get their inspiration flowing, I guess. So Anna had this elaborate 80-page glossy brochure made aimed at potential investors. And after speaking with her architect, they decided that the perfect space for ADF would be the Church Missions House, a beautiful, very well-known historic landmark in the heart of New York City with a very steep price tag for the lease. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, all of this is sounding super expensive, you're not wrong. Anna had clearly been inspired by the lavish VIP New York lifestyle she'd become accustomed to, and it showed in her vision for the ADF. And I haven't even mentioned the multiple law and real estate firms that Anna had hired to help her secure the lease. One of which, Gibson Dunn, was charging her $1,000 an hour for their services. And fair call, because she was working directly with the likes of Joel Cohen, who in the past had successfully prosecuted Jordan Belfort, the inspiration behind the 2013 movie Wolf on Wall Street, in which he was played by Leonardo DiCaprio. So Anna has all of these grand, elaborate plans, and she's working with some of the most prominent businessmen New York has to offer to make her dreams a reality. But we all know that she didn't really have a $60 million inheritance coming her way. And so Anna started using all of her connections to reach out to potential wealthy investors. And she's doing the big sell. She's inviting them to the lavish dinner parties that she's hosting, having meetings, sending emails. Like, this is her full-time job for months. But no one bites. And to be honest, I think she did manage to impress some of these people with her vision because it was just so grand, but no one was willing to dive in head first with their money before ADF was opened. It was more like, okay, sounds great, make it happen, and then we'll send you some cash. Eventually, Anna gave up trying to rope in investors because it just wasn't happening, but she didn't admit to this defeat. Instead, when people asked how everything was going, she was like, oh, I've changed my mind. I don't need any pesky investors telling me how to run my own company. I'm just going to do it on my own. And so people would have been like, yeah, of course, with your inheritance, right? But Anna told them that her father had decided to withhold her inheritance for another year because of her over-the-top spending. So she couldn't use that. Instead, she set her eyes on the banks. It had been estimated that Anna was going to need a casual, rough $40 million to bring ADF to life, a request that would obviously have any normal person laughed out of the bank. But luckily for Anna, as far as everyone in New York is concerned, she is the furthest thing from a normal person. She just needs the paperwork to prove it. And so she gets on her computer and uses a combination of Word and Photoshop to create fraudulent bank statements to show that she has access to roughly 60 million euros in offshore Swiss bank accounts. And she's also Googling things like how to fake an excellent credit score and how to create false, untraceable email accounts. She then applies for a $22 million loan at City National Bank. And when they ask for proof of these offshore funds she claims to have, an accountant named Peter Henneke responds on Anna's behalf with more bank statements and saying if they need anything else to proceed with the loan, to contact him directly. And everything looks pretty legit, but the bank finds it weird that Anna's accountant, Peter Henneke, is replying from an AOL email account. So they're like, does he work for UBS? And Anna's just like, no, he's the head of my family office. Like, one thing I will say for Anna is that she is so quick on her feet and always has an answer for everything, even if it's a lie. It seems like the email address thing is enough to spook City National Bank though, and they declined Anna's loan application. But Anna is just completely nonplussed and just strolls down the street to Fortress Investment Group and even ups the game, asking them for a loan of up to $35 million, showing them the same bank statements and having them work with her same accountant, Peter Henneke. And Fortress, after looking over everything, are like, yes, we'll go ahead. All they need is a $100,000 deposit from Anna to prove that she's good for it. Like, Good for the loan of millions of dollars. Honestly, reading this, I was like, excuse me? I have Word and Photoshop. How did I not think of this? We know, of course, that Anna does not have $100,000, but she just shrugs and is like, no worries. And she goes back to City National and says, okay, no hard feelings about the $22 million. Can I just borrow $100,000 instead? Because all my assets are in Germany and a wire transfer is just going to take so long. And it's really just the least you can do. And they approve it. They let her temporarily overdraft her account by $100,000 on the condition that she pays it back ASAP. And Anna then uses that $100,000 as the deposit on the loan with Fortress. Like, how is this even real life? Unfortunately for Anna, though, in the time that it's taken her to get the $100,000, Fortress have, of course, still been processing her application, and they've picked up on a couple of discrepancies in the paperwork, most notably that while Anna claims that she is from Germany, her passport says that she was born in Russia. So they tell Anna, look, there's just one more thing. We need to fly over a couple of our people from here to talk to your people in Switzerland in person so that they can just finish up the final steps in the process and then we'll be sweet. And this time it's Anna's turn to be spooked because, of course, she knows that if the Fortress guys fly to Switzerland to speak with her people, they'll realize that everything she's told them is a lie and she'll be exposed. And so she quickly withdraws the loan application and huffily tells them that she doesn't need them anymore anyway because her father is now going to fund the project instead. Anna is only able to retrieve $55,000 from her original $100K deposit because the rest has gone to due diligence procedures by Fortress during the application process. But once again, she's just nonplussed. She's unfazed. And in true Anna Delvey style, rather than using the $55K to pay back some of the overdraft she now has with City National, she burns through it, throwing some expensive dinners, going on shopping sprees in designer stores, and just living her best life. On the 18th of February 2017, Anna checked into 11 Howard, a glitzy new hotel owned by the same guy that owns the church missions house, Abby Rosen. So it seems like this was definitely a strategic decision on Anna's part. And she even name-dropped Abby upon check-in to the staff, asking if he was in and available to say hi. And he wasn't, but she had successfully set up this impression now that she and him were buddies, even though they had really only met in passing. And she said to the staff that she would be staying for about a month. Anna was staying in one of the hotel's mid-range rooms, a Howard Deluxe, which went for around $400 a night. And at this point, it seems like she was more focused on expanding that network of hers again. She hosted a ton of drinks and dinners at the expensive French restaurant at the hotel, Le Coucou, with some really affluent and well-known guests. Like allegedly Macaulay Culkin was at one of these dinners, and even Farmer Bro Martin Shkreli. This, of course, being years before he would become known as America's most hated man for upping the price of a medication used primarily by AIDS and cancer patients from $13.50 per pill, which is already insane if you ask me, to $750 per pill. It was during Anna's stay at 11 Howard that she made two of what seems like the closest things to friends that she had ever had in New York. And I'm putting friends in quotations here because, of course, these two women never really even knew Anna. They thought they did, but they really only got the fake fabricated version of Anna that she had created. Friend number one was 25-year-old aspiring filmmaker Nefertari Davis, or Neff, as she would become known by the media. Basically, the majority of the staff at 11 Howard found Anna to be quite annoying and impolite, and they didn't like her, but she won them over by tipping $100 bills left, right, and center for just the smallest of tasks, like, oh, you open my door? $100. You delivered a package to my room? Here's $100. You picked up a phone and booked me an Uber? $100. So, of course, the staff were basically tripping over themselves and each other to be the one that looked after her. But Anna ended up taking a particular liking to Neff, who was working as a concierge at the hotel. And Anna just started off giving Neff $100 tips for suggesting restaurants and bars. But before long, she was inviting Neff to these big dinners she was hosting. She also brought her along on her shopping sprees. And Neff was almost working for her in kind of a secretary role when it came to organizing meetings for ADF, and the two of them ended up becoming quite close. Friend number 2 was 28-year-old Rachel Williams, a photo editor for Vanity Fair, and Anna and Rachel had met a couple of years earlier, running in the same circles on the Manhattan elite party scene, and while they were more acquaintances than friends, they had stayed in contact through texts here and there ever since. Rachel would later say that her first impression of Anna was that she was slightly offbeat, which I think is her just being nice, because she does genuinely seem like a sweet person. Most everyone else just called Anna awkward or weird. But the very day Anna checked into 11 Howard, she texted Rachel asking if she wanted to catch up and come meet her for drinks and dinner at the hotel. And Rachel accepted, and this turned into a very regular occurrence. Rachel would visit Anna at the hotel pretty much every day after work for drinks and dinners, all of which Anna would pay for. Anna also treated Rachel and Neff to shopping trips, to beauty treatments, and even chirotherapy sessions. But Neff ended up finding herself in a little bit of an awkward position as both Anna's friend and a staff member at 11 Howard when her managers asked her to approach Anna about her rapidly growing hotel bill. So because the hotel was still so new when Anna checked in, and because she had given this impression that she was this ridiculously wealthy heiress that was good pals with the owner, Abby Rosen, she had been allowed to check in without putting a credit card on file. And all of those expensive dinners that she had been hosting at the restaurants, all of the drinks that she had been having with Rachel and others, she had just been telling the staff to charge it all to her room. And it was only now, a month and a half later, with her bill standing at about $33,000, that the staff were like, maybe we should have gotten that credit card. So Anna now had hotel management pressuring her about her bill, and City National Bank were following her up for the $100,000 overdraft that she had promised them would be paid weeks ago. But Anna always had an excuse. Her accountant, Peter Henneke, would send through multiple confirmations of wire transfers to both the bank and the hotel, but somehow these funds would never actually hit their accounts because the wire transfers weren't real, of course. Peter Henneke himself wasn't real either, if that's not abundantly clear. It was just Anna posing as her own imaginary accountant, using fake email addresses and burner phones to keep them off her back and buy herself a little bit more time. She even went so far as to send down a 1975 bottle of Dom Perignon to the hotel staff to kind of keep them on her side, but the hotel management had had enough and they refused, saying that hotel policy prevented them from accepting gifts from guests. And meanwhile, despite being harassed for money on both sides, Anna was still shopping up a storm. Her room was just a mess because it was filled to the brim with bags and bags of stuff from high-end stores. She's wearing $400 a pop eyelash extensions, and between ADF meetings, she's treating Rachel and Neff to super expensive PD sessions with celebrity trainer to the stars, Casey Duke. Obviously, this wasn't maintainable. Something had to give. And so in April, Anna deposited $160,000 worth of fraudulent checks into a Citibank account. And before they could bounce, she quickly withdrew $70,000 in usable funds. This is a very old illegal practice known as check kiting. And Anna used this money to finally pay her $33,000 bill at 11 Howard. And the following month, she made a show of informing Neff that she was going to go and see Warren Buffett, the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, a company that owns a ton of other companies like Duracell and Dairy Queen. Yeah, Warren is quite literally the ninth richest person in the world. And Anna was like, yeah, he's a family friend of mine and I'm going to go see him at the Berkshire Hathaway conference in Omaha. No biggie. On top of that, she decided that she wanted to take a private jet to the conference. And so she employed the services of this new crowdsourced aviation company called Blade, described as a very exclusive Uber for helicopters. And Anna convinced the staff at Blade to fly her to Omaha without paying the $35,000 upfront fee. Instead, she told them that she was buddies with the CEO, Rob Weisenthal, and flashed his business card when really she had only met him in passing at a party in Soho a few months earlier. And the company, under the impression, of course, that she was this wealthy heiress, decided that Anna was what they deemed to be an acceptable lending risk and accepted her assurance that she would pay via wire transfer. Anna's lawyer would later argue in court that Blade had failed to do their due diligence and essentially given Anna the flight for free because they knew she was influential and had a large Instagram following, and they were anticipating the free publicity they would get from her social media posts about the trip. Blade, on the other hand, would claim that they had gotten oral confirmation from their bank that a wire transfer had been put through before they allowed Anna on the flight, a transfer that, of course, would later prove to be fraudulent. When Anna got back from Omaha, she was infuriated to find that she had been locked out of her room at 11 Howard and all of her things had been put into storage because despite being asked politely multiple times by hotel management, she had still refused to put down a credit card. And she raged to Neff about it, saying that she had gotten the names of all of the managers and bought the web domains for their names as a revenge. The idea being that if they ever wanted to use their own web domain names in the future, they would have to buy them off her at a very inflated price. This was a trick that she had learned from her old friend, farmer bro Martin Shkreli, who did this with a bunch of reporters who dared to paint him in a negative light. But life, of course, goes on, and Anna planned on moving out of 11 Howard ASAP, but it would have to wait until after she reset her tourist visa, which required that she left the country every 90 days. And in the past, it seems like she had done this by just going back home to Germany or other places in Europe, but this time she had a different plan in mind. Anna contacted her friend Rachel and asked her what she was up to and if she would like to take a trip with her somewhere warm, somewhere like Morocco. And Anna assured Rachel that she would of course pay for everything, the first class flights, the luxury accommodation, fun day trips, all of that. So Rachel enthusiastically agreed, of course, I mean, who wouldn't? And Anna also invited along Neff, who not long earlier had found herself stuck with a tab of around $280 after she and Anna had gone out for dinner one night. And it sounds like it was really awkward. Anna got the waiter to try something like a dozen different credit cards and they all declined one after the other until eventually Neff put it on her card. And $280 was a lot of money for her, but just a day or two later, Anna had paid her back about 3 times that amount in cash to thank her. And so they were all good. And Neff was keen to accept the invite to Morocco, but she got talked out of it by her mum, who told her when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. And thank God for Neff, because her mum could not have been more right. This trip to Morocco would turn into just an absolute nightmare for all those involved, including poor Rachel Williams. But that's where we're going to leave part 1. In part 2, we will, of course, be talking about this Morocco trip from hell that I can't even tell you is so cringeworthy and anxiety-inducing that it's not funny. Like, I'm tense just thinking about it. We'll also be talking about more of Anna's antics because, of course, she's not done. And we'll also be talking about her eventual demise. Kind of, like if you could call it that. The jury's still out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And if you're not already, remember to subscribe so that you and me can be best friends forever and you don't miss out on part 2. You're going to say bye to everyone? They all came to see you. I know. It's so exciting to be back, isn't it? So not that exciting. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and Lily. We appreciate it so much. As usual, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this case so far. Are we team Anna? Are you hoping she comes out of it all unscathed, or are you just kind of waiting for her to finally get what's coming to her? Let me know in the comments down below. This hangout does not have to end here. We can debrief and talk about our feelings down there. Part 2 will be out within the next week. I promise I won't make you wait too long. But in the meantime, have a fabulous week. And me and Lily will be counting down the hours until we see you in the next one. Bye.